front of me from my left, and he grabbed hold of the guy, and he's also trying to extract him. And the whole time he's continuing to try to get that truck out of there. And we cannot get him out of this vehicle. And I remember Sergeant Carey coming up. I remember seeing him off to my left, my peripheral vision, and then as he's approaching like this area right over here. We were positioned like right here. The door was shut. Officer Carey was looking somewhere over here. And he's yelling at the guy. I don't recall exactly what he was saying. He's got the gun, pointed, his gun drawn, pointed at the guy. At some point, when I first was in, I kind of disengaged just to reevaluate what was going on. And he's yelling at the guy's still not complying with us. I remember going back to the door. I remember saying something to my ASOR or something just to get his attention, what I was doing. I remember going back to the door, pulling up the door lock, and pulling up the handle. I don't remember if I got the door all the way open or partially open, but while I'm doing that, the guy, he's still trying to get this vehicle moving. Around that time, something registered in my brain where Sergeant Carey was yelling, and it got me back away from the vehicle. While I was doing so, I turned my back on the vehicle. I was actually, moving towards Sergeant Carey. He would have been off to my right at that point. I remember going like around Sergeant Carey and ended up like somewhere in this position over here. While I'm hearing what sounded like 6 gunshots. I turned back around and faced the truck at that point, and I remember seeing Mr. Southerland fall against the driver's door and then face first out onto the pavement. And there was no movement at that point. After that, I immediately went back to my car, made sure my civilian observer was okay. I instructed her to stay in the car. So later on, the Lieutenant Michael actually had to get her out and sent her up the street this way, where she stayed with all the months. That was it. I mean, we remained separated. And then I was there until they finally got that trailer off my bumper, which the front end was pushed down. They had to get some jack the trailer off of my vehicle.
Just have a couple of clarification questions for you. When the suspect failed to stop after you initially activated your blue light and siren, at what point did you realize he was not going to stop?
Well, at first, like I said, when we were on at Oakland Road, it's not uncommon for people to do like and start going forward looking for a place to pull over or something. That was my initial thought, that this guy maybe just looking for a place to pull over. But once we got onto Loretto and we actually observed the driving pattern on there, and like I said, it became, the criminal mischief was a low priority at that point. This guy was an impaired driver that was obviously, if we let him go, somebody's going to get hurt, or he was going to end up wrecking or something himself.
Do you believe that the suspect was aware of your attempts to stop him and that he intentionally refused to do so?
I do believe that, especially when he backs into my car and continues leaving. I've heard him went to it. He obviously knew we were there at that point.
How far down Loretto Road is that from the initial point of your attempting to stop him? Is that the road closest to San Jose?
That would be, do we have a PowerPoint of the streets? Yeah, it's several miles. There's no reason why he shouldn't know we were back there. Our lights were going, sirens were in use, and there's no reason why he shouldn't know we were back there.
At the initial point of the pursuit, for the first time you backed into your car, were you pursuit vehicle number 1 or number 2?
I was number 2.
In your attempts to stop the vehicle at first, initially and it became a pursuit. At what point did you believe that initiating a pursuit on a vehicle that the suspect wanted for criminal initiative was justified?
Well, like I said, I mean, we were going to attempt to stop this guy because he was a possible suspect of a criminal initiative. Once we observed his driving pattern change, as far as I'm concerned, we weren't pursuing yet. I thought this guy was actively looking for a place to pull over. And then, once we hit Loretto, we observed his driving pattern long enough. He was getting worse, and this guy was all over the road. Right? It became a pursuit of a DUI suspect. It wasn't, or a possible DUI suspect. The criminal mission had nothing to do with it at that point.
It was 4 minutes into the pursuit before anybody mentioned anything about.
Yeah, I did get to listen to audio, and it wasn't the best communication, but his driving pattern was observed. It was documented in my report. It wasn't 4 minutes into pursuit before we were able to observe this stuff.
Are you aware of the policy that regulates what officers and non-police personnel are regulated when they have?
Yeah, it's my understanding. You're allowed to pursue as long as until basically you're relieved by another unit. But at no point did that opportunity ever come up. It was me and Holmquist. He's primary. I'm not going to let him pursue by himself. And then at some point he ends up where he can no longer be primary, and I was the only unit available that could stay behind this guy who clearly showed a driving pattern where he had no regard for safety or public safety or property.
When the suspect initially stopped abruptly the first time, and according to Officer Carlson, who was from later, it was to avoid the stop sticks that he had set out.
I wasn't aware of stop sticks.
Okay. What was going through your mind the first time you backed into your car?
I couldn't believe I was in shock. I couldn't believe he had backed into my car. And I knew at that point, that he had no intentions of stopping for us. And he was a clear danger to the community as well as officers, and we needed to get him stopped.
Did you believe that that was an attempt to assault you when you did that?
I did.
Were you in fear for your safety at that time?
I can't tell you how I felt at that moment. I was in shock that it occurred, but I was just concerned with getting him out of the vehicle, getting it over with.
The first time you backed into your car, were you in fear for the safety of your civilian observer?
While that was going on, honestly, I almost forgot she was with me.
Did you feel like continuing the pursuit of your civilian observer was justified after that?
Yes.
When the suspect stopped his car the second time, is it now you're the primary vehicle in pursuit, correct? What was going through your mind when you put stuff in reverse and backed the trailer onto the hood of your car?
Like I said, I was in shock when it was happening, and it bothers me to this day thinking about why I couldn't initially react and get out of that car. I was watching this trailer come straight at me, and I'm thinking it's coming through my windshield. Luckily, when it turned to the left, I was able to get back on, a clear train of thought and get out of the vehicle and try to extract him.
So you were in the driver's seat when the trailer came up onto your
Yes.
hood? Were you in fear for your life at that time?
Yes.
Why did you not use deadly force at that time?
Well, at that point when I ran up, I could see he wasn't armed or anything. I've never shot anybody in my life, and just you go back to instincts, and my instincts are to go hands-on when I can. I think I can control somebody. Usually, when I can get my hands on somebody, I can eventually get them under control. But I think the problem with this one was I didn't want to put myself in that vehicle any further than a jacket on or something that because I was in fear that if he took off, that I'm going to get drugged or lose an arm or something like that. So I didn't really have enough leverage to get this guy out of the car from me, but we were trying. And Officer Holmquist came to my aid, and we weren't able to get him out.
At what point did you become aware that the trailer was actually stuck on your car and couldn't move forward? When you were trying to get the suspect out of the car, did you ever see him try to put the car back in reverse and back up again, or was he just trying to drive forward?
I remember seeing the car go. It wasn't going far, obviously, but it was going forward, backwards, forward, backwards. I remember seeing that a couple of times. I remember seeing his hand on the shifter, the engine revving. Why it wasn't moving, I didn't know that at the time. I didn't know it was stuck until, like I said, after it was over.
Where was Sergeant Carey when the trailer backed onto your car? Do you know?
I'm guessing somewhere behind us. I don't know.
Were you confident that you and Officer Holmquist would have been able to get the suspect out of the truck if Sergeant Carey hadn't told you to step back?
I can't say. I mean, I was doing my best to get this guy out of the car, and we couldn't do it.
Have you ever taken an uncooperative person out of the vehicle before?
I may have. I don't recall.
Where were the suspects standing during this struggle?
Originally, I remember seeing one hand on the steering wheel, and one hand was like dipping in his gear shifter or whatever. The steering wheel, the hand I used was his left hand off the steering wheel. What he was doing with the other hand at that point, I don't know. I don't know if he's holding on to something.
Did you ever see him with a weapon?
No.
Did using deadly force ever cross your mind at any point?
I was so focused on physically getting this guy out of the car. I didn't even think about anything like that. I was so tunnel visioned on what I was doing, just trying to get back in the fight and get him out, physically move him out of the vehicle.
Have you ever been trained on vehicle extraction?
Vehicle extraction?
Did it pull someone out of the car?
I don't know.
How long do you think that you and Officer Holmquist struggled with the suspect at the door before being told you were away by Sergeant?
I'd say it's hard to say. I mean, the whole thing seemed like it happened so fast, but a minute or two, I don't know. That's a guess.
Did you ever hear Sergeant Carey make any statements to you or to the suspect on your struggle with him?
I remember a lot of yelling. Like I said, at some point I remember him say something about for us to back away from the vehicle. I don't remember what his words were exactly. Somewhere amongst the yelling, I heard the word shoot. I don't know if he was telling God I'm going to shoot you. I did hear the word shoot somewhere amongst the yelling. And like I said, at some point, whatever he stated registered in my head to have me get away from the vehicle.
Did you ever hear him say, take him out with a gun?
No, I did hear the audio recording, and I was surprised when I heard that.
What was your reaction when Sergeant Carey started shooting?
I was in shock. I've never witnessed anything like that before.
Any other questions?
Just a couple follow-up questions then. As you're driving behind the car, about what speeds were you going after the second time? After when you backed into your car the first time you made the turn, what kind of speeds were y'all doing at that time? You know?
I really wasn't paying attention to speed, but I know he was traveling at a higher speed. I had to be over speed.
The reason, since we're still on that same point, the reason that Officer Holmquist could not take